make sure you have somebody that has your back, because I've seen that too. I've seen that when my father passed away, and he married again. After being married to my mom 49 years, they would have been married 50 years. He remarried. He then married for about 10 years, and then that person who he thought was going to be there, and he said, look out for my sister. He told her, look out for my sister. She hasn't seen my sister since the day of his funeral, or picked up the phone and called my sister since the day of his funeral. All she wanted was the money. So that's why I wrote the book, because I seen it firsthand.
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Khalif Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, where we also discuss solutions. And I'm here with my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
My second co-host, Khalif Johnson Sr.
Peace, y'all. How y'all doing?
And we have a special guest in the house today, Crystal Bodie Smith. Crystal, why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. I am Crystal Bodie Smith, and I'm a hope catalyst. Pretty much I'm on assignment by the man upstairs to be a social light out here in the community and to recycle hope. And I do that pretty much through everything I do, and regardless of what it is, whether it's through a book, through my podcast, through a business endeavor. The bottom line, my mission is to stir up the gift, instill hope, and save lives. That's what the bottom line is, everything I do.
All right, so I don't know where I get this question from, but I'm going to go for it. How did you get into helping people plan for the end of their life?
Man, that right there came from an experience that I would never want to have to pass on to anybody. I watched my mom, my dad, and my brother pass away. So when you are put in that predicament, which we all will face one day or another, which we don't look forward to it, I took my experiences and I wrote them in a book because I just didn't want to see other people go through the things that I went through. One of the things I have been is very transparent, and I've learned that everything that I've gone through is not for me, it's for somebody else, so I share.
And what's the name of the book?
Final Wishes, a transition from life to death.
Okay.
So, do you see differences across cultures with end of life planning? Like, are more people doing it, in different populations?
Sorry to say, but I can't speak for many other populations except my own. And I have to say that we as African Americans tend to put other things, higher up on the priority list than speaking about death, speaking about the unexpected. Unfortunately, especially the younger parents today, they want to put their money on planning on how to make sure they get out there when the new Nikes and something come out. They don't think about this. It's not a conversation people want to have.
So how hard is it to have the conversation? From your experience, how hard is it to have this conversation, to sit down and actually talk it out with the family member?
Well, I'll ask you guys. Have you guys had the conversation with your family members?
We have actually in my family. I've had it because my mom, she's been fighting through a terminal disease for the past decade, and that's something that we've all discussed. And for me, because we're real down to earth and we're in tune, we know we're born to die. It's not a hard conversation. We worry about living life more so than we are worrying about when it's our time to transition.
And that's good. That's good. And a lot of people are afraid to have it now as business owners, because all of your business owners too. A lot of business owners fail to have the conversation. And it's important because we work hard to achieve success and to get what we want to get with our businesses. And what happens if something happens to us? All that work goes down the drain if we haven't instructed someone on how to follow through with our businesses that we've established. Finding out if it's a passion that they have and if they even want to do it. And if not, just telling them where everything is so they can go ahead and make sure the necessary person that you've chosen could go ahead and take the torch and run with it, you know? So it's just things like that. I mean, just making sure that all our work is not in vain, whether it's with unexpected death. You know, people have to understand remarriages, divorces, people are not going back and looking at the necessary things. And there's so many common mistakes that people make.
Yeah, so my family's had the conversation, but Trash said it's not a hard conversation to have, but it's a sad conversation to have, and a lot of people don't want to be sad. So, what's some tips on how to approach this topic?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't have to be sad because, like Khalif said, we all know that we were born and then everybody, you know, has a day that they're going to leave here. We don't know how, though. So the book, the main focus is final wishes, knowing what your final wishes are. And this is the example I always give people. Can you picture getting that phone call and somebody was in a car accident and they're sitting there on life support? You all go to the hospital room and the doctors is now saying there's nothing else we can do. People are upset. A decision has to be made. You need to know if that person even wants to be a vegetable. Some people will have already told you, look, if something happened to me, I don't want to be on a machine. I don't want to live like that. Other people may not have said that to you. But if they have already said that to you and made it clear, and the children are in the room and the siblings are in the room and whoever it is, if you are the designated person to make that decision, it's so much easier when you go out there and you tell the family, listen, you know this is what he said. He said he don't want to be on a machine. He said he don't want to do this. And it just makes it easier when that time comes to go ahead and pull the plug. Versus if you make that choice and you go back in there and say, well, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing. You know, we're going to pull the plug. Now they're coming at you because you pulled the plug versus you honoring their decision. You follow? Can you see the difference?
Mm-hmm. So with planning for end of life, do you recommend people prepay or have a certain amount of money put away? Like I mean, I don't know if there's like if you get it's gonna sound weird, but do you get a discount if you prepay?
Well, let me tell you something. There's so many things. Now, you can go ahead. You can go to the funeral home and you can do some things. It's called a pre-need. You can do a pre-need and you can have some things done. I mean, some people and African Americans, I got to speak about us because that's what I am. Many of us, they don't want to do a will. Well, in my book, which you can get on many places, you can go on Amazon and get it. You have to Google it by my name, Final Wishes by Crystal Bodie Smith. So I make sure that I tell you about it. But guess what, guys? I don't just talk about life insurance. I do talk about health insurance. I do talk about, you know, auto insurance and critical illnesses and things like that because there's so many ways that we have to be prepared. And I tell people, just like you have car insurance, you need to have life insurance. And why do you want to get life insurance? Well, there's a lot of different things you want to consider. And here's a few things that I'll tell you real quick that you just need to think about. Why do you need to read this book? Well, number one, you're either a young adult and you need direction because you just don't know where to start. All right. Or maybe you're just wanting to know how to leave that written plan for your family, the plan about your business, the plan about it. Just want to tell people where things are. Inside the book, I have a place where you can let people know, well, my information is in that top drawer on the right. Because sometimes some children, some family members get distraught and they don't know where to go and what to do. All right. If you remarry, it's important. You have to know. And I want to speak to those who have aging parents. Please, please, please. A lot of people have relocated to go back and take care of their parents, and they don't ask the parents about the policy. And then I'm going to go a step further. They ask the parent, but then they don't go look for themselves. I need you to lay your eyes on the policy and see the policy for yourself because some of them may have turned out. If your parents are living to 80 and 90 years old, they may have had a term policy and it may have expired. I have seen people think that they had insurance, come to find out it's expired. So that's just one example.
Okay. What are some of the obstacles you ran into while talking to people about these planning ahead?
It's not just talking to people. I've experienced things myself. I'm going to tell you another example, an obstacle. Long-term relationships. A lot of people forget when they break up to go and take that person's name off the policy. You know, you've been in a relationship with someone or someone passes away and you have them down as a beneficiary. So I suggest people go and they change the paperwork and review the paperwork every so often. Marriages, divorces, deaths, reasons why you have to always go and look. Children age out, they remarry, the name change. If you don't have it correct in the paperwork, that will cause you a problem when it comes to payout.
So what's the process you use when it's time to have conversations, or you consulting a family when they don't want to really hear this? What's the process you go through with them?
Just be real. Just sit down and have a heart to heart and just say, look, do you have insurance? How many of you have seen it? You've seen the GoFundMe's. We've all seen it.
The
And
car
here's
washes.
we need to, as parents, as grandparents, we need to have conversations with our children. When those grandbabies are born, many of us have to do what my mother did, get the policy for them. If we know they're not responsible, keep the policy going for the child. If you know they're inconsistent and they switching jobs and they don't keep insurance, we need to be responsible and get that policy for them. For a child, there's so many places you can go to Gerber, you can go to Mutual Omaha, you can go to MetLife. It's $5, y'all. Under $10, you can insure these grandbabies. There's no excuse.
So how would you, if there was somebody that, was kind of standoffish about even talking about it, how would you suggest that we approach that? Because obviously it has to be talked about. It has to, So how would you go about that?
Well, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I appreciate y'all for having this conversation with me, because we need to have more conversation about it. It's not an easy conversation. Can I tell you guys something? I gave away my first 100 books. Can I tell you that at least 85 of those people have told me, Crystal, the book is still on my table. I just can't find myself. It's hard. I said, give me a break. If you go out of the house, how many of you know somebody who you talk to them and you found out the next day that they're not here? My daughter just got a conversation. She just got a call today from one of her collegiate friends. Her mother went in the room and her daughter was cold. She died in her sleep. And this is 34 years old. It's happening. Younger people are dying. So you decide if you want your family to be distraught and confused, or if you want them to be at peace and you want to give them something that's going to make it less stressful for them. It's easy to say the book is in the top right drawer. If something happens to me, everything is already in there for you and they don't have to scramble. I had to scramble when I went to New York City. My brother called me. He had 6 months to live. They were asking me all kinds of questions. I had to go to like a Kinko's and get a binder. I had to go in his house and go through and find things. I couldn't find nothing. I had to put it together. I stayed on the floor. I had to dump out a bag and find all this information, go to his job. It took me a week. And then I got everything together. I put it all together and I was able to get him out of New York, bring him to North Carolina. They gave him 6 months. Long story short, the next week I put him in hospice. The following week, I had to take him out because he said, sis, I just want to go to the hospital so they can pump my stomach one more time. Lo and behold, that next day he passed away. So it was 777 and he was gone. But I had everything in order. Thank God I had everything in order. But it wasn't easy. And what I went through, I never want nobody else to go through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you kind of spoken about why you got into it. Now that you're in it, like as far as instruction, do you have an accountability partner? Do you have a coach, a mentor? Who do you talk to about building your business in this field, and how do they help you out?
Me personally, when it comes to this, insurance agent. When it comes to this particular topic, I have insurance agents that I deal with. I'm also a financial advisor when it comes to, I help people who don't have insurance, but they can also get financial assistance so that they can definitely make sure their family is buried. So I have people, business advisors and insurance agents that help me. And then I have people that I have met, like people like you guys, that do things that I know that are very resourceful and making sure that everyone has what they need and points them to the right direction and make sure they get the solutions to all their problems.
There we go. Hey, what's some things you talked about insurance, and you said people don't like talking about wills. Should we have wills and trusts and living wills and medical directives? Like, where do we start with all that stuff?
Yes. You start by, you can go to your local It's the register of deeds, and they have a directory. You can register in the directory, and if you're not sure, you start by getting my book. You start by getting Final Wishes by Crystal Bodie Smith, because I point you in the right direction. But if you don't want to get my book, then just Google it. Google is our best friend today. We can find out anything we want to know, anything you want to know. But the thing is, start somewhere. Have the questions answered. Want to give your family that peace of mind, especially if they're young adults, man. It's not going to be easy. You want to have some extra money lying around, because guess what? The insurance money is for the living. It's not for the person who just passed away. Did you know that? It's for the person that's left behind.
So if the people get the book, then they'll know when to where to go to create a will, living will, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I point them in the right direction for just about everything. And if I don't know, then I certainly do know how to find information for them and refer them to the insurance agent. Let me put the disclaimer out. I'm not an insurance agent. I don't confess to be an insurance agent. I'm a person who went through the experience, and I can tell you how to avoid some of the mishap that I experienced. That was very disheartening, very painful, very stressful. And I'm just trying to make sure you don't have to go through that.
What's the biggest mistake that you see people making?
The biggest mistake is not asking questions, not getting insurance, not getting the right insurance policy. That's a big one. Not telling the truth on the application when they go to get insurance policy. If you have an illness and it asks you if you have an illness, tell the truth. In 2022, there's a policy out there just about for everybody, but you have to tell the truth. And you need to be with the right insurance agent who can help you to customize a policy for you. It's not always about getting a policy, $1 million policy, if you don't have those type of assets. So you need to know what you need that's customized for your lifestyle.
Okay, so understanding what you do, knowing that you're a caregiver and everything, how do you balance everything that you do, being a businesswoman, entrepreneur, and your family life? How do you balance them both out?
For me, you want to know the truth? I have my prayer life. I do things that I enjoy, like dancing. You know, I love people, and I travel a lot. I like to go. That's where I find my peace, traveling, just finding some time for me. There is no balance. The balance is imbalance. People think it's 50-50. It's not. But you have to learn what works for you. And every individual is going to have a different scale. It's 50-50 might be for very rare. It might be 60-40, it might be 70-30. But if you have 30%, you need to know how to make sure you maximize that 30% and keep your peace of mind.
I like that. The balance is imbalance. All right. What's the most important thing you've learned in your life since doing this type of work?
Dot your I's and cross your T's. Go back and check the paperwork. Again, if you haven't done it, go back and check your policy, your own policy. Make sure you've added that stepchild. Make sure you removed things. You want to know why I wrote this book, guys? To be very transparent, my brother had a girlfriend, and he forgot to take her name off. And she contested us when he changed the information to add his family member. She contested it because she was greedy. And the valuable lesson was learned. You have to go back and take the names off the policy. He had left the job, but he still had a name on the paperwork at the job. So I try to urge people to understand how important it is to make sure you go back. I know someone else who their child had passed away, and they hadn't fixed the beneficiaries. So it's a lot, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. It gets ugly when people pass away. You see some things. People show you their true color. People come out of the woodworks that you never seen. Children come out of the woodworks. People come out of the woodwork that wasn't even there while that person was sick, and they have their hand out. So I'm telling you, have those conversations, have your stuff written out, and make sure you know who it is. If you getting in a new relationship, ask those questions and make sure you have somebody that has your back. because I've seen that too. I've seen that when my father passed away, and he married again. After being married to my mom 49 years, they would have been married 50 years. He remarried. He then married for about 10 years, and then that person who he thought was going to be there, and he said, look out for my sister. He told her, look out for my sister. She hasn't seen my sister since the day of his funeral, or picked up the phone and called my sister since the day of his funeral. All she wanted was the money. So that's why I wrote the book, because I seen it firsthand.
If you could have a conversation with somebody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Dead or alive? Woo! Probably my father. My father. Because he was about probably the wisest man I know in my book. Because he was respected, very knowledgeable. If he didn't know how to get it, he went and found the person. It would be my dad. And then my mom would be the second person for sure.
What is the best tip you can leave us with to make our community a better place?
Share your experiences. We learn from one another. When we figure something out, don't hold on to it. Whatever we go through is not for us, So we have to know that there's no competition at all. So it doesn't hurt to let the next man know what you found out. It's okay if they do something better than you or they do something first, but we need to share. It's enough for all of us.
All right. So if somebody needed your book or your services, how could they find you?
www.IamCrystalBodieSmith.com. That's IamCrystalBodieSmith, like you see it on the screen. And you can also buy the book at Amazon under Final Wishes, A Transition from Life to Death by Crystal Bodie Smith. Put the name in there. You have to put the name because someone else has the book. But my book has a little area in the middle where you can actually leave instructions. You can even leave a love letter to your loved one or a letter to your child. And just tell them, if you're finding this, I'm not here. But tell them what you want them to know to console them even after you're gone. They can read those kind words you left them.
All right, Rhonda, you have anything you want to leave the people with?
Plan ahead.
All right, cool. How about you, Mr. Johnson? What do you want to leave the people with?
Queen, I thank you for what you do, because this is not an easy conversation to have in our community. And a lot of us are left fighting these battles, fighting over money, fighting over who gonna get what, trying to have everybody putting their hand in and who did what, and all of the nastiness comes out after we lose a loved one. So plan ahead. It's really important. Get your paperwork in order. If you don't have paperwork on your parents, on your kids, on yourself, with your spouse, get your paperwork together. You know what I mean? And tap in. This queen is helping the community out.
Yes, take time, do it. It's important, man. You can't have the nails, the fly nails, the hairdo, and all that stuff, and no insurance. Yeah. You can't go out there and be, smoking and drinking, and your kids are not insured. That's crazy. People put more money in their weed supply, in their CBD supply, and their kids are not insured. That's ridiculous.
Yep. I would say, you guys, let's make sure we're getting wills. Let's make sure we have a living trust to where our assets don't end up in probate, where the court make the decision on it. If we end up in probate, we'll never create generational wealth. You guys, y'all know we have problems and we also have solutions. And we out.
From the team at CRC Empire, we want to thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Wrights Official, and at the_trash_vegan_. We got problems and we got solutions.